Welcome to Her Voice, a show that highlights female game changers from the Middle East. I'm your host, Kubadel Ramanathan. According to the most recent statistics available from the Home Office, 785 women from the Middle East moved as wives of a person settled in the UK in 2011 and 2010. There is no available data to determine how many of those relationships worked out. However, social workers focused on the Middle Eastern community believe a significant number of women face cultural issues when they move to the UK for marriage. Today, we examine why these organizations have been rallying the government to expand the legal rights of women under spousal visas. One such group is the Kurdish and Middle Eastern Women's Organization in Britain. I spoke with the director of the group, Sausan Salim. Sausan, thank you so much for joining us on Her Voice. Now, your organization was established in 1999 to really address the needs of Kurdish women hailing from across the Middle East. Can you tell me what are their issues when they come to the UK?
Our organization, definitely set up to help to support Kurdish women, and now it's expand. Actually, it's all Middle Eastern women who speak Arabic or Farsi or Turkish or Kurdish. The women who come in from Middle Eastern country to the country like European country or UK, they're facing lots of problem, and because of the differences in a different way, the kind of the culture they grow up with and the kind of the system in our country work, and when they come in here, the language is the big issue, and the differences, culture differences, and also the lack of understanding how the system, how the policy work in this country, all have a big impact on women's life. I mean, Middle Eastern women's life in this country, and it's a new life. It's a new start. They have to start, and they have to understand, and to understand you have to speak the language, and if you're not, you face lots of problems.
Sausan, let's take a look at one woman's story. She hails from the Kurdish region of Iran and moved here to join her husband.
Okay.
This Kurdish woman, a celebrated designer and fashion historian in Iran, says she left her comfortable life to move to the UK 3 years ago for an even better one with her new husband, a man she met during a trip to London.
He told me, yes, I help you for everything, but me thinking, oh my God, he's very nice man, he similar my father.
But days after arriving, she said he became an abusive, controlling man. She agreed to speak to us on the grounds that her identity wouldn't be revealed. She says her husband threatened to kill her if she spoke publicly about how he treated her.
He think me just slave at home. No, similar the people. Sometime I want change design home. He told me no change because this is not your home. This is my home.
Her husband's promises of helping her gain a British education and a career were never fulfilled. Living in the UK on a spousal visa, she says she felt trapped. The stress started taking a physical toll.
Left hand sometimes not working, a lot of time similar the sleep, and few times I went to the hospital for my chest problem because the doctor worried about maybe I give heart attack.
She says her pleas for help from his family fell on deaf ears.
Please, no problem. Sometimes he angry. You you silent, be quiet, help him for everything.
The fighting finally came to a head when her husband demanded a divorce and kicked her out of the house. Home now was empty buses, police stations, and finally a women's shelter. It's a life, she says, many Kurdish women never dream of but end up in when they move to the UK for marriage.
Everybody think, and similar me, everybody thinking the people live in the Europe, in the UK or USA, very good people, high education, everything good working.
She's one of the lucky few. She has her own visa now and will apply for British citizenship next year. She says her dream of a better life is truly within grasp now.
For the future, I want go to the college. My English good. I go to the good job, and similar my country help the people. I would like here start everything.
We should make clear that not everyone's story ends similar to this woman in the video, but for those who don't have a good experience, you know, we just heard that one story of how her life essentially fell apart. She was homeless for a period of time. Can you tell me, what are some of the other issues that these women face when they realize that the relationship is not going to work or they're forced out of it?
The problem, you know, the women is mainly most of the cases we had, which is called no recourse to public fund. You know, for 2 years, those women who come in on spousal, they have no right to apply for benefit or housing benefit, and even education. Is if she wants to study, she has to pay. And mainly the husband not paying. And even the problem is, if she cannot speak the language, she doesn't know what is, you know, how the system it work. You know, and even mainly control is a big issue. She's not allowed to go out. She's not allowed to study. She always, the first place they tell her, if anything, you know, if she complain, you know, the husband simply told her, no police. If you go to the police, I know what I do to you. Even sometimes telling her, I know what I do to your family, you know, there. And that means one door is locked, you know, which is the police, to help her, to, you know, to rescue her. And when it comes to women organization to seek help, actually, if she is totally controlled, she doesn't know from where to start. If she's lucky to have some kind of friend, you know, some people around her to tell her there is a women organization, or there you can go to the police, or you can go to your GP, tell them. If she has a chance to tell the police, the GP, or maybe the women organization, even always she was told by the husband that, you know, the women organization always willing to, they are very feminist, they don't like, they don't believe in family, you know. They say bad things about women, and losing the trust about even women organization, about the police, about even if she doesn't know how the system works, she doesn't know there is a refuge or the shelter or homeless unit to go and seek help. And this is you know, the main issue, how to start, in which point, where to go, seek help. This is one. And second, when it comes to, because on spouse visa, you know, this person doesn't have any right until, you know, because in terms of the benefit, housing benefit, even staying, all depend on her husband. She's here because of her, of him. If the relationship broke down, you know, if she has to, the only option for her just to go back. But there is one option for her. If she is a victim of domestic violence, she can seek, you know, help or right to stay based on her case, based on domestic violence. But again, it's a very complicated. It's really difficult because she has to prove she was a victim of domestic violence. She was a victim of controlling behavior. She has to prove it. And proving that, you know, the question simply we ask, or the solicitor asks, how many times she been at the police station, if she called at all, if she tell the story to anybody. You know, this is also complicating, making the case much difficult for her. And although we managed to help many women, and we managed, as you saw that case, you know, she got the right to stay. But even still, for women organization, for people who's helping them, even victim support, it's not an easy job to help women with no recourse to public fund, because we need a proof, we need to show in, she been ever at the police station or women organization telling her story, or somewhere else like a hospital, or many times it happened, you know, she been abused physically, and she simply went to the hospital and it happened accident. It was accident. She were told not to tell the hospital or the GP what happened, because maybe they put herself in a harm or harming her family.
Sausan, what do you say to people who believe if these women are not British citizens, they shouldn't have full access to public funds?
I don't know who's saying this, and it's not fair, you know, because I think marriage is people's right, you know. If someone wants to marry either here or there, it's not a big issue. But when women come in to have their on her family and husband and children, in my view, should be treated equally. We live in the 21st century, and everybody should have access to equal right. And moving to this country for marriage is a kind of the right, and government allow this. When you allow them to have a marriage, even not from here, from their own country or another country, in the same aspect, it should be have equal right and access for the right which is there for everybody. That's why equality is very important, and having equal rights for everybody. I think that's the main issue. All of us fight for it.
Well, we should clarify for the audience that we are going to be speaking to some legal experts later who explain some of the basic rights that these women have under their spousal visas. But moving forward, I want you to tell me, if you could change policy or speak directly to the federal government, where do you think the deficiencies lie? What improvements need to be made?
Actually, my organization, and there's a few also organizations who have been fighting, actually it was even a reason we set up our organization, because I realized in the past when Kurdish women from Iraq, she went back to Kurdistan and she was killed. And we find out that the government not doing anything because Kurdistan is not a state and not a part of the state, and we feel that any Kurdish woman at risk of honor killing, because there's no policy to defend her right, and there's in here because Kurdistan is not a state or not part of the state. But later on, that's the organization set up to highlight this issue, because when we started working for women, when we went to any meeting, any networking, we realized that when we talk about honor killing or forced marriage, our minds, straight go to Asian women, and we noted that they did a good job. They did enough for highlighting the issue within, in terms of honor killing or forced marriage or other issue of abuse and harm to their community. But also we wanted to highlight also the part of a duty to highlight that the same concern, the same issue, which is related to Middle Eastern community. And I think somehow we were achieved, and we made, we were a voice to tell the government, to local authority, to decision maker. It's not just Asian. There's another group of women, which is Middle Eastern women. We have the same problem. There's a high rate of level of honor killing, forced marriage, female genital mutilation, other type of violence against women. And also, since we set up our organization, we started campaigning against honor killing, forced marriage, even no recourse to public vote, which is now called 2 years rule. It was 1 year's rule at that time when we started. And we were simply our demand to demolish this no recourse to public fund. And really, I don't understand. Women coming on a on visa marriage, for marriage, to have a life, have a family, have to start, a new life. And when something happened, when the relationship breaks down, it's not her fault. It's the husband who abusing her, who controlling her, who not allowing her to do anything. And when it comes to to the decision by the government, mainly the victim is the woman, because she's on no recourse to public fund. She's on spouse. What about the man who using all of violence and abuse and controlling against women? Women shouldn't be punished, and even when it comes in terms of the no recourse should be demolished, and when women come should have equal right, the same like the husband, because she's not coming for, she's not coming just to spend some time in this country. She's coming to have a family and life, and children, and to be an active member and do something good for the community, for the society. But suddenly the thing doesn't go right, it's not her fault. you know. And we very much looking forward to having a policy in a place to help them, to put them straight into the to the society and to integrate to the society by encouraging them to go for education, to learn the language, to start looking for job. You know, this is the way just to help them even to understand it. About how the policy work, how the system work, and how to, if something happen, if something goes wrong, how to stand up and seek for help and stand up for her right. This is the way we're looking at the issue. And we've been around about 13 years, and we always a part of the, either we run a campaign on our own as a Kurdish and Middle Eastern women organization, or we were a part of another group who were campaigning against all the brutality and violence against women. And we still continue, you know, we were totally against the kind of rule around no recourse to public fund. We are always encouraging and taking part with the police, with them networking with the council to address the issue affected the community in general and especially women, to understand and to realize and to have enough resource to help them to understand and integrate easy to the community and to the society.
Welcome back to the show. We just heard about some of the intimate cultural issues women on spousal visas in the UK face. Now our next guest is Alan Platt of Platt & Associates. He'll highlight some of the unique legal challenges of this sizable demographic. I'm joined now with Alan Platt, Senior Partner at Platt & Associates. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you.
You're going to fill us in a little bit about spousal visas. Can you tell me what sort of restrictions do women face when they do move here to marry a local?
Okay, well what they would initially do is to make a visa application at a British diplomatic mission abroad. They would have to satisfy the visa officer at the British diplomatic mission that they're entering into a genuine marriage, and that their spouse, their UK spouse, can support and accommodate them. That means demonstrating that the UK spouse has an income in excess of £18,600 a year, and that they have sufficient accommodation to be able to accommodate them in the UK.
Okay, so when they move here, obviously the intentions are always very noble, but relationships don't necessarily work out as planned. What sort of legal barriers do women face when the relationships dissolve?
Yeah, unfortunately, some relationships do hit difficulties, and obviously the UK government recognises that by having the facility for people to make applications on the basis of domestic violence. These provisions are very clear, but obviously it's a very difficult process, it's a very difficult time for an individual, and they need to make sure that they address and prepare for making such applications.
I understand that there have been some changes, or there are some changes coming with relation to such applications.
Yeah, that's correct. In July last year, in 2012, the spousal probationary period increased from 2 years to 5 years. So when a spouse applies for a visa abroad now, they would initially be given a period of time of 2.5 years, and then at the end of that particular period they would then have to prove that their marriage was subsisting and would be given another period of 2.5 years, until at which point, if everything's okay, the marriage subsists, they've proven that they've not fallen on charge on public funds, then they can apply for permanent residency.
What sort of implication do these changes have for a woman whose relationship is heading south?
Well, obviously there's a longer period for the relationship to go wrong, because initially last year you would be given a 2-year period, and if your relationship survived that 2-year period and you got indefinite leave to remain, and unfortunately then later the relationship broke down, then it wasn't an issue from an immigration perspective. But of course now the new 5-year probationary period makes it more likely that there will be more breakdowns and issues of domestic violence, and applications made to the Home Office.
A major sticking point for a number of community organizations I've spoken with is this rule of no recourse to public funds. Can you tell me, what does that mean?
Yeah, that's correct. Basically, it means that they have to pay their way during the time that they're here. They can't turn to the authorities, for example, to claim unemployment benefit or housing benefit. They can, however, have access to the NHS, to the National Health Service. Obviously, you can go to a doctor. That's not regarded as falling a charge on public funds. But of course, when somebody becomes subjected to domestic violence and the relationship breaks down and they have to leave the marital home, they sometimes do so when they don't have a lot of money, and they would, undoubtedly need help of either friends or representative organisations, charitable organisations that can help them through such a difficult time.
Okay, interesting. Now, you have dealt with a number of domestic violence applications involving immigrant women of Middle Eastern as well as South Asian descent. Can you tell me, are there any unique cultural limitations that women of these groups face when putting together these applications?
Yes, I think it's fair to say that a lot of the domestic violence issues that I've faced have involved women from the Indian subcontinent and the Middle East. I think they especially face pressures that perhaps other nationalities may not face. The Home Office, though, does recognise that when they're dealing with these cases, they are generally sympathetic and understanding of cultural issues that people from the Indian subcontinent and the Middle East may face.
Can you give me some examples of issues that they faced?
Yeah, I think perhaps it's quite common for a lady from the Middle East or from the Indian subcontinent to come into a family environment. They're not necessarily just going to be living with their spouse or their partner. They may well be living with other members of the family, and perhaps that creates pressures for them, because the extended family of their spouse may also expect things of them that ordinarily people marrying other nationalities wouldn't necessarily face. And that's a very common occurrence, where perhaps a mother-in-law has put undue pressure on the spouse.
Okay. Now, from a lawyer's perspective, can you tell me a little bit about the problems you face in terms of gathering evidence for these cases?
Yeah, it's very often that an individual will come to us with absolutely no evidence whatsoever of their claims. And the thing to remember, I think, is that when a person is going through a domestic violence situation, that gathering evidence may not necessarily be something that's paramount in their mind at the time, because they feel down, they feel that there may be something wrong with them, not be necessarily something wrong with the situation that they're in, and they don't necessarily approach things in a logical way, which is understandable. What I would counsel is that, first of all, that they seek legal advice, confidential legal advice, at an early stage to help them and direct them towards representative organisations that can advise them, support them and help them through these difficult times. And if obviously things do become quite severe, then of course don't feel reticent about involving the law, the police. Call the police if you're subjected to domestic violence, physical or emotional, or blackmail and things like that. So those organisations are very helpful, as are the social services, or your GP, hospital, medical organisations that can give you support. But yes, definitely the main issue we face as lawyers is people who come to us with very little evidence.
Okay. And just moving on to discuss some of your suggestions on areas of improvement the federal government can make in terms of these types of claims.
I think it's really to do with the speed that they're dealt with. I mean, sometimes, obviously, because people don't have very much evidence, the Home Office may deliberate for quite a long time, may want to make sort of individual separate inquiries themselves to find out whether there's any foundation in the person's claim. But certainly I think that in many cases they could be dealt with more quickly to allow the person to move on with their life and at least not have to worry about their immigration status.
Okay, now finally, speaking to the women at home who may not necessarily know where to turn if they are facing problems in their relationship, can you tell me what would be a good first point of contact?
Well, as I've said earlier, I think probably one of the good points that they could do is to seek legal advice, first of all, because they would be steered in the right direction. If they're a little bit, or if they're unable to approach a law company or a law firm, then perhaps they can go to the Citizens Advice Bureau and other representative organisations, that charitable organisations that are very understanding and helpful in these circumstances.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Her Voice today. Do you have any personal stories you want to share about this show? Well, we'd love to hear them. Contact us at levant.tv/Her Voice. Have a great day.